Next, they're often both feared and misunderstood, but Sharia councils, bodies set up to administer Islamic rulings, practice here in the capital. That's why a new voluntary code of conduct is being introduced to try and regulate them. Most councils were founded to deal with religious divorces for Muslim women. They have no legal standing but rely on the weight the councils carry in the community. Alex Bushell has this special report.
He would think it's okay to come and have a bust up with me, and when I mean bust up, beat me up. It still breaks my heart, but it took a punch from my brother-in-law for me to realise my worth.
It is only now that Mariam is emerging from a violent and brutal marriage. Hola Hassan is a scholar, helping her to divorce her abusive husband and his family. This is also one of the most feared and misunderstood religious practices in the country, a Sharia council in session. But for Mariam, the reality couldn't be further from the misconceptions.
I did not feel at all under pressure. I was able to just speak, and I've opened up to Mrs. Hassan more than I have to anybody, more than I have to my own family.
Clearly, Mariam's benefited from the work of Leighton Sharia Council. It is the largest in the country. It is also now one of 20 councils that have signed up to a new code of conduct. And the reason? To ensure best practice and minimum standards.
The whole concept of Sharia councils was so unstructured, and because there's been nobody controlling, nobody watching, no accountability, people have been able to set up Sharia councils sitting in the back room of a mosque, of their house, and just say, I am a Sharia council, I will deal with the community around me. And then be able to say what they like. And if they have an interpretation of Islamic law that is quite misogynistic, that is quite harsh, that is quite violent, they'll get away with it.
That's why she considers this new code of conduct part of a modernising agenda, led by this man. Among many measures, all rulings will now be in English and kept on a database. The preeminence of English civil law will be reinforced as well. And in the comfort of Regent's Park Mosque, he told me better religious training for scholars is the key, making it harder for what he deems cultural practices that can too often force women to return to abusive or failing marriages.
A lot of these criticisms, they're not criticisms of the law, they're criticisms of culture, they're criticisms of the conduct. And one of the things we're trying to do is eradicate that conduct and those procedures.
There are, though, still many who are unconvinced. A government review into integration last year included claims some councils promote extremist values and condone wife-beating. Others ask why there are so few women scholars who sit on the councils themselves. Despite that criticism and concern, today is still significant, marking as it does how the leading Sharia councils are themselves trying to ensure they are as fair and transparent as they can be, whilst remaining true to the teachings of the Quran. Alex Bushell, BBC London News.
And Alex is here now. There is a wider context to the timing of this and whether it goes far enough.
Well, yes, there are an array of reports currently underway in Parliament. The Home Office has one, the Home Affairs Select Committee is undergoing one, which is due to report back any day, in fact. And the independent peer, Baroness Cox, as well, is pushing through a bill through Parliament trying to force Sharia councils to be subject to the same equality legislation as many other public bodies. The effect of that would be to end that disparity between women having to go to Sharia councils in a divorce that's contested and men currently not having to, with the vast majority of Sharia councils. I spoke to her today and she also explained why, even with this code of conduct, more reform is needed.
There's quite a lot of evidence that there's a lot of pressure from some of the Sharia councils to send women back to marriages in which they are suffering abuse. And one of the arguments is you mustn't bring shame on the family, shame on the community. So many women are actually heavily pressurised to stay in abusive relationships.
And this all plays into why this decision, this announcement of a code of conduct is so significant today. It covers around 2/3 of the Sharia councils across the country. It's really been led by Sharia councils here in London, and it shows willingness by the leading Sharia councils to both accept that reform is needed and to be in charge of that reform process. It may be too little too late because there is a sense, I think, within government that regulation may now be coming from government itself, but we'll see.
OK. Alex, thanks very much indeed. Alex Bushell.